I have over 300 games in Steam.
Obviously, there's a bit of variety in there. Platformers, RPGs, racing, story-driven, there's a big variety, and I'm a pretty heavy gamer.
Wipe that smirk off your face!
I play a variety. I usually prefer cozy indie games or heavy RPGs with open world, as long as the open world is good, Saints Row 2022. That being said, of these 300 plus games, maybe 1/3 of those I could actually categorize into separate videos. That's roughly 200 of these games that are either weird or just don't fit into one category.
With that, I introduced my new series, Random Steam Games That I Played, or as I'm going to call it for convenience, Risk Tip.
I'll pick 5 games from my Steam library at random and discuss them. I'll usually feature 3 big games that'll take up decent chunks of the video, usually be featured on the thumbnail, and 2 small ones that I played significantly less but still found something to talk about.
With that, this is Volume 1 of Risk Tip.
First up is Psychonauts. Released as the debut game from Double Fine in 2005, this platformer made a bold move of putting its creative director, Tim Schafer, on most advertising. Now, it's not totally uncommon for creative directors on games to put their names somewhere within the marketing, Sid Meier, Hideo Kojima, but especially around the time, a lot of controversy surrounded this tactic after John Romero's pompous ass decided to blast his name all over Daikatana, promising it was the next coming of Jesus because John Romero worked on it. The game bombed. That being said, Tim Schafer is a bit less in that pool as his games, one way or another, always had that weirdness to them and made them unique. He started with LucasArts in the 90s with such titles as the Monkey Island games, Grim Fandango, and Day of the Tentacle, some of the most acclaimed point-and-clicks of all time. However, this game marked not only his first game with Double Fine, he's also the founder of said company, and this was also when he decided to jump from the point-and-clicks he did with LucasArts to a bit of something different, a platformer with an emphasis on exploring the human mind. And with it being almost 20 years old, I gotta say, oh my god, this game is so fucking good. It's so creative and innovative and has Richard fucking Horvitz, and the levels are so fun and the characters are so weird, but that's kind of what makes it good. And I wish the sequel sold better because this game is so good, please play it. I liked it. This game is really, really good. Surprisingly, it holds up 20 years later in a way even platformers a quarter that age don't. Which one would you rather play, Psychonauts or Super Lucky's Tale? I'd rather play the one that explores what it means to be a platformer. The game follows Raz, voiced by Richard Stephen Horvitz, a young boy who dreams to be a psychonaut. What is a psychonaut, you might ask? Well, apparently they go inside people's minds and, well, that's about all I got from this, so my analysis?
Perverts.
The game takes place within this camp that apparently trains you to be a psychonaut. But since Raz wasn't initially enlisted, he can't be there but is allowed 3 days of the camp to become a psychonaut. This attracts a lot of conspiracies within the camp and it's up to Raz to unravel it all. The game is really good at making almost every character, even the characters meant to be pretty, ugly. The best thing I can compare this to is Day of the Tentacle, which had weird design, weird characters, and a very unique story. The only difference here is the platforming, which is very fun. The levels and worlds are very creative as you literally go inside of people's heads. The best way to highlight this is when you go inside the mind of Sasha 9. It seems very plain, a white cube with abstract designs. What makes it unique is when the level actually starts and we crank up the designs given the circumstances. No character looks normal here, and I always love that. The girl that Raz obviously gets involved with and has a crush on him. It's very obvious, but the way they get it across is a lot funnier than it needs to be. I also give credit to any bully archetype that's usually more pathetic than the person they bully. A good example is Alvin from Paranorman, but I also like Bobby, mostly because admittedly I thought he was going to be British, so when he wasn't...
Hey kid! You owe me 5 arrowheads for this week's protection service!
Yeah, screw it, I'm gonna make it British. You know, the British summer camps have a more important activities like tea parties and parliament meetings! The game isn't, like, consistently funny, which sucks. This is the guy known for the Monkey Island games, and I feel like they could have taken a bit more advantage there. The only other issue I felt was the navigating. The map is impressive for 2005, but it doesn't have a waypoint and such. You get really lost on what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go. It wasn't really annoying because this world is fun to explore, but I do admit that's the one thing that kinda annoyed me. Also, the music and specifically the cutscenes seemed a bit too loud.
I mean, don't you just hate it when you get drowned out by...
Other than that, this is a top 10 platformer for me, amongst my favorites for sure. Now this one's way smaller in comparison to Psychonauts. That being said, Art of Rally is a small but beautiful driving game, having you drive around a large map looking for different items. Only one problem, how do I put it? The game is egregious to control. It's one of those cases where the turns are way tighter than you intend them to be, and it just makes everything feel so awkward and stiff. The clear selling point of this admittedly way smaller game is the clear visuals, which yes, it's beautiful, gorgeous to look at, but at the end of the day, it's a game that's pretty to look at but obnoxious to play and fundamentally doesn't have enough to interest me.
Wow, a game that's pretty to look at but is obnoxious to play and fundamentally doesn't have enough to interest me.
High on Life is a game from Rick and Morty creator Justin Roiland. You know what that means?
I sure do.
This game's biggest selling selling point was that the guns within the game talked. Now in concept, that's kind of funny. But one problem, Justin Roiland's behind it. Even before the allegations, this guy's writing, especially his Morty voice, always just kind of irked me, rather than make me laugh. And man, this game is just not fucking funny. Like maybe once every 10 minutes of gameplay, something really funny would happen.
I can't say the name of the button because I have no fucking clue what kind of controller or keyboard you're using.
To give you an idea of how quickly this game turned me off humor-wise, we literally get the gun, voiced by Justin Roiland, 5 minutes in.
Okay, it is your lucky day right now. Listen, we're not switching around here. We picked the red guy. Whoa, 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 what are you doing? Come on, he's just a kid. Don't shoot him. We're gonna have to kill some of these Torque foot soldiers to prove our...
And you guessed it, the rest of the game is pretty much just this nasally Morty voice talking to you throughout the game. As for the actual element that matters, the shooting, it's fine. Clearly it's a homage to the classic early 90s shooters like Doom and Wolfenstein, even opened up with a parody of those games. But it's just annoying, man. Most of the time, the best humor came from the characters outside of Kenny. The other guns, and especially the knife you get with the DLC, are way funnier. But for the most part, it's just this nasally, whiny voice almost never being funny. That's not a terrible game, as the shooting can prove fun. For that, it isn't going to be lowly rated just because of the bad humor. Rather, the humor is a part of it. The world is fun enough to explore, but it can get relatively repetitive. The boss fights, not challenging at all. If you want a zany, wacky shooter with quirky characters and fast gameplay akin to Doom and Wolfenstein, I recommend Bears in Space, as that one was fun to play and was pretty damn funny. This, you'll get fun out of it, but if you weren't a fan of Justin Roiland's other projects, and trust me, I wasn't, I wouldn't recommend this one.
I'm not shooting a kid.
Go ahead. Ah, you shot me. I'm dead.
Someone killed my son.
Your son...
Okay, so this one's not necessarily a small game, but a game I still want to discuss. With the upcoming release of Civilization 7, I should probably reveal that while I had interest in this series, I've never actually sat down and played a Sid Meier RTS game. Why is that?
I'm stupid.
I had no idea what I was doing playing Civ 6, and only after getting my roommate to play a match with me, I started to pick up what you're supposed to do. It's a civilization building strategy game. Above all else, your best bet is to continue evolving and building your civilization to be the last one standing. With that, this game is incredibly impressive for 2016. Look, that was the year that was reserved for Yakuza 6, okay? With fully voiced cutscenes, many of these world leaders speaking their native languages, it's always impressed me how well these games were made. I've still got a lot of trading to do before Civ 7 releases in February, but for now, I can definitely recommend Civilization 6. Similar to Civ 6, Kingdom Come Deliverance has an upcoming sequel just a few short days from this video's upload. Now, I played this game once around 2021 or so, and I remember liking it from what I played. I must have had godlike skills because the combat is pretty difficult to learn. With that, this is one of the easily best stories I've seen in a medieval game. The story follows Henry, a young man living in a village which is ransacked and torn through by a group of rogue warriors amidst a huge civil war. After his parents, what's the right word? Oh yeah, die. Henry goes on a huge quest. This story gets really tragic because as early as we're introduced to these parents, we know they're going to bite the dust. But it's way more tragic with Henry literally watching them die and seeing the guy who killed them. But god, this combat is stiff. It makes it challenging, but I found it a lot easier to just not get involved in combat. It also has weird presentation issues that makes it look more weird and unfinished, honestly. Like, look at this cutscene.
Ma, I'm hurt.
Holy moly, Bruce, your arm's cut off.
Oh! But with that, solid medieval title, for sure one of the best stories I've seen in one, but small imperfections hold it back, and I hope the sequel is able to take more advantage of that.
Well, that's all for now, so until next time...
I mean, they don't let you fuck the Glumpers at Glumpies without a level 4 fuck pass, do they?